Joe Reinagle, Jason Minix, The Blitz.
It is The Blitz here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250, and now 94.1 FM. He is Joe Reinagle. I'm Jason Minix. The New York Times with a thorough investigative piece of reporting yesterday on the Deshaun Watson case, and with it, it revealed what appears to be knowledge of the Houston Texans and implicated the Texans as an organization. Also talk about how Watson's attorney, Rusty Hardin, had conversations and meetings and emails and texts with the district attorney that Tony Busby was unaware of. It's getting uglier and uglier. In fact, Busby announces today that he will be adding the Houston Texans as a part of the lawsuits. What does all this really mean legally? There's one guy that has been on both sides. Former Bexar County District Attorney and powerful criminal defense attorney Nico Lahood joining us now. Nico, man, we need to pick your brain.
What you can have whatever's left of it.
When you, I mean, is when you read the details of this case, no, two grand juries said no criminal charges are coming. Now, part of that from, watching lawyer shows on TV, he said, she said, no evidence, no witnesses, hard to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I am not surprised that there were no criminal charges filed against Deshaun Watson. Civilly, I think it's going to cost him some money, but now you keep adding it to the number of lawsuits. From a legal standpoint, I'm trying to figure out the strategy of Busby and then the strategy of Rusty Hardin.
Well, beyond a reasonable doubt is not the standard of proof in a grand jury proceeding. It's beyond preponderance of the evidence. So, they say you can indict a ham sandwich. It's because the rules of evidence don't apply. And the DA's office can actually determine what evidence they present to that grand jury. You do not need a unanimous verdict. It's not like a petit jury when you get into a felony court or a misdemeanor court for 6, a felony court for 12. You just need a quorum, and a quorum is 9 out of 12. So it really is pretty. Just when someone says, "Oh, they've been indicted," it's really a much lower standard than a jury would have to meet later on to prove a case or to find a person guilty, a citizen accused, beyond a reasonable doubt. So I wanted to make that distinction there. The civil track, guys, is different than the criminal track. I mean, the standards are much lower. A lot of people, some of these civil lawyers, and I'm not being disrespectful to my colleagues that do civil law, they really try to beat people in a corner to make them pay them to go away sometimes. And so, but the standard is lower. They're suing for a tort, for what I understand, that's any damage negligently done by one person to another. There's intentional torts. This would be, I'm assuming they're filing as an intentional tort. I have not reviewed the documents in this lawsuits. And they're really hoping, when I just heard you say that they're going to bring in the Houston Texans, I can't believe they waited this long to do that, because they know that's where the big bucks are, and along with Watson, and they're hoping to just get paid to go away. It seems like, I don't know. Maybe they believe that this really happened. I'm sure the lawyer does. And I respect the ladies and their allegations, but I am used to making objective analysis over when I'm looking at evidence, and I really try to shelf my feelings or my emotions.
Nico, when you look at this thing, and apparently Deshaun Watson offered these ladies a settlement back several months back of $100,000 each, but he couldn't get them all to get on board with this. The 22 at that time. 4 of them, I think, were holdouts. Just hypothetically, if you're Deshaun Watson's attorney, are you in a corner with him or in a room and saying, dude, we got to settle this thing and get rid of it? Because the court of public opinion, he's already lost, I think. What would your strategy be in that situation?
Well, the strategy, it depends on how strong or weak the evidence is. What I've seen, I think it seems obvious that some of these encounters were consensual. And of course they're going to play these women are trying to take advantage of deep pockets and money bucks. He's going to claim they're lying. They're going to claim that he's abusing his authority and he felt he was above the law. I get all that. It comes down to evidence. I always tell clients, and for me as a Christian, truth matters. But in this world, it doesn't matter what the truth is. It matters what you can prove the truth is, right? And so you have to look at objective evidence and really make an assessment that way. So I mean, if he tried to settle it, it's an offer to compromise. We all know about it now. It's usually not admissible in a civil proceeding. And so the analogy I give, Joe, is like an insurance company. I've had people come to me before and say, I wasn't wrong. I'm not liable for this accident. I told my insurance company not to settle. The insurance company says, well, you may not have been wrong, but it's going to cost us $100,000 to prove you weren't wrong. And it's going to cost us $35,000 to make this person go away. Sorry, we're paying this person to go away. So I think that's what you're alluding to in your question. And yes, that's part of the assessment when they're protecting their client.
When you look at, we're up to 24 women on the civil suit right now. The New York Times article talked about 66 different massage therapists that he booked appointments with over a 17-month period. Is there a point where no more lawsuits can get added if they're not in now? If he were to make a settlement with these 24, could we think we're done with that? And then here comes some of those other ones that everybody knows about, but can they jump in and sue later when they see how much the victims in this are getting paid?
Sure. I mean, they stand on their own. So that may be part of the thing that they're thinking, and part of the assessment is, if we pay these ladies out now, then who knows what's going to come out of the woodwork. And then, look, the lawyer's going to have very personal and attorney-client privileged conversations with Mr. Watson. And maybe obviously there's information that he may be sharing with his lawyer, and they're making strategic decisions. You know, we're trial lawyers, as you guys know, and trial lawyers, when there's no more time to negotiate, you go before 12 people, and that's our battlefield, right? That's where we settle disputes. But before that, it's a chess game. Later on, it might be a war, and it is a war often, and there's rules to that war, but there's still a war. But before that, it's a chess game, and you have to be very strategic when you navigate through these waters. And so all these things play into it when a lawyer is giving good, credible advice to their client.
You know, Nico, I don't want you to disparage colleagues, but when you look at high-powered attorneys like Tony Busby and Rusty Hardin, and we'll just concentrate on Busby for now, getting all these women together and having one representative like that, what does that tell you? Is it something that maybe Busby is just after a big settlement here? But what does that tell you about him?
Nothing particular, Joe. I mean, nothing really particular. I mean, this is what he does. And it's easier to handle. All these women have the same claim, it seems like. They have different evidence that are fact specific for their incident or their allegation. But it happens a lot, like with the oil spill cases, and maybe a lot of these Firestone cases, a lot of these, you know, when you're having this cancer, or you have what is it called, when you have the mold in houses, and a lot of these lawyers, they try to collect a lot of people with the same claim. So nothing really that disparaging about Busby. I mean, look, he wants to feed his family and earn a buck. As long as he does it honestly and with integrity, there's nothing wrong with it.
Nico Lahood joining us here on the Blitz, talking about the Deshaun Watson case that just keeps getting uglier and uglier. And I realize, you just said, I mean, they're all trying to make some money.
Yeah.
That's what you do for a living. If, Rusty Hardin, I don't know, maybe doesn't want to settle because he gets more billable hours every time there's more coming up. But at what point, when you're an attorney, you've got a client that says, I want to clear my name, do you say, I don't know at this point you can. The court of public opinion has already made up their mind. At some point, you've got to figure out how to settle this.
Right. I mean, that if a lawyer is truly looking after their client, they have to consider all of this. Some clients say it's worth it. And so those are principle-based litigations. And I get that. As long as the client, what I like to do, and we do in our firm, is we manage our client's expectation. We don't tell clients what they want to hear. We tell them the truth. If you have a lawyer that's telling you what you want to hear, then you probably need to get another lawyer. It's like going to a doctor and the doctor telling you what you want to hear. Everybody wants to hear you're okay. But if you really want to get better, you want a doctor to tell you the truth and then give you a prognosis, a diagnosis, and then a plan to get you healthy and get you back on your feet. So same thing with a legal doctor, which is what we are. We're lawyers. And so a lawyer should be telling the client what's in their best interest, not what they want to hear. Now, and that doesn't mean you be disrespectful or inconsiderate of their feelings, because there's a lot of emotions in cases like this, criminal and civil, but you definitely need to look after the client's best interest and not your pocketbook.
When you're talking about 24 defendants here that are for lack of a better, I'm not a lawyer, Nico, as you know, but 24 women who have filed this lawsuit, Do we have to have 24 individual trials?
I mean, well, yes, because there's different incidences. It's not like if somebody is accusing one person in one incident, well, then that's all part of the same set of facts and circumstances. No, they have their own separate cases. They have one common lawyer, but separate cases.
Wow.
It just seems like so much money on both sides. And if I understand this right, Busby doesn't get paid unless he wins. Is that how it works in the legal world?
That's typical. That's what happens on with these type of civil lawsuits. He understands the potential payday, and so I'm sure it's a contingency that he gets a contingency of a percentage of what they collect or what he collects for them, and it goes up if he goes to trial. It usually goes up to maybe up to 50%. Everybody can negotiate their own terms, their lawyers, but yes, he's got skin in the game. Also, he knows he's going to get a settlement at some point. I mean, if they've already offered to settle, it's just a matter of what's that magic number, it seems like. But the more the evidence, the more pressure he can put on Watson, the more pressure he can put on the NFL. Now he's going to drag the Houston Texans into it, it sounds like. So, I mean, he's playing it right as a civil lawyer. I mean, there's nothing that I've read that's unethical that he's doing. People might not like it, but if they were in the girl's shoes, they wouldn't want a lawyer like that.
Well, and again, I look at it as we visit with Nico Lahood here on the Blitz. I mean, you've got two very high-profile attorneys in Houston battling it out. The playbook now says we're going to the media. You had a couple of the ladies go on HBO on Real Sports, and then you had Rusty Hardin go on a radio station down in Houston, and they're just like they're following the playbook. And if I'm the NFL, if I'm the NFL, I'm telling Deshaun, figure out how to make this go away so we can stop talking about it when the season gets here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I didn't read this part. Is Harden representing Watson on the civil side also? Or
Yes, he is.
Okay, well, he has that unique type of practice because a lot of times they don't interact. I know he handled the criminal case as well, and I know there was some criticism on his communication with the prosecutors, which, I mean, there was more communication than usual, it sounds like, but nothing out of the ordinary. Prosecutors and defense attorneys communicate to resolve cases. If people take the initiative, when I was district attorney and my law partners that were assistant DAs when I was the DA, I mean, we had an open door policy that any defense attorney could come to us, and if they can present evidence to us for us to make the best decision, our oath as prosecutors was to ensure justice is done.
Let me ask you that real quick,
Sure.
Nico, because you are former Bexar County district attorney. Rusty Hardin had meetings, emails, and lots of discussions, including the DA going to Rusty Hardin's office. Tony Busby says he was unaware of those meetings. Is that normal?
Yes. I mean, that's not abnormal. Let's put it that way. The only thing that I read that was out of the usual was the assistant DA, the head of the sex crimes division, allegedly, again, I'm going to say allegedly because I believe none of what I read and only half of what I see because context matters. But we'll just keep that for your own pocketbook.
Yes.
But the only thing that appears to be out of the ordinary was the assistant DA went over to Hardin's, allegedly, his office to talk. That's not normal. I mean, if you're friendly and stuff like that, I guess you can be friends. I mean, go to lunch. I didn't have a problem with the prosecutors and assistant DAs. I told them, I go, you're friends. I expect you to be ethical and legal and do everything above the board. But you don't break off your relationship. So that's the only thing that kind of said, no, that wasn't normal. The amount of communication, I guess, was out of the ordinary, but this wasn't an ordinary case. And nothing that I read, submitting a grand jury packet is not unusual. And so nothing that I read was just that really made you scratch your head over the top.
As a DA, because, because Tony Busby kind of makes it seem like the DA didn't fight hard enough on the criminal side. As a district attorney, what all do you weigh when you look at trying to bring charges, when you look at what it would cost to try to prosecute that case, or in this case, 24, what it would cost, with all the investigations, and then find a jury that you think you could convince beyond a reasonable doubt? I mean, I'm guessing as a DA, when you work for the taxpayers, you don't try to bring a case that you don't think you can win, right?
Well, I will tell you, when I was district attorney, cost was never my consideration. It should never be. It's not in my oath. The oath was to ensure justice is done. What does that mean? Did we get it right? Are we accusing the right person? There's three aspects to justice, guys. Don't ever forget this, because people always think about only the first one. Is the government accusing the right person? Did the government get there the right way? And three, is the outcome, meaning the punishment or the resolution, appropriate for the allegation? Three aspects to justice. It's not justice if you accuse someone of theft and then they go to prison for life. That's not justice, right? And maybe on the flip side of that, if somebody sexually assaults a minor, they shouldn't get probation. Arguably on the other side, I'm trying to be fair on both sides. And so there's three aspects to justice, and cost isn't one of them. When I was DA, I never considered cost. I mean, when you have the power of the government, and you have to be very, very cautious how you wield that power. You're not playing with. It's not a game. These are people's lives. I mean, you accuse somebody, it changes their life forever. And I took it very, very serious. And I had the 200 lawyers that worked with me when I was DA. I told them, take that very serious. This isn't a game. This is not about files. These are about people, and there's families involved. There's people that are claiming to be victims, and there's people that are being accused of allegations. We've got to merge that together with something called evidence, objective evidence. You have to put it all together and reach that a very elusive term called justice. And so for me, when I was DA, cost didn't matter to me.
Good to hear, because I know that some of the questions coming out of Harris County and with this situation is they're not going to win it anyway. It's going to cost a lot of money. Let's move on. Nico, man, I'm glad you took some time out of your very busy schedule to visit with us today. I feel like I'm smarter now than I was 15 minutes ago.
Well, you guys are two made men on the radio, man. So when Jason and Joe call me, and it's not because they were arrested, I'm going to answer.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
On a variety of levels. Anytime we call, regardless, you answer. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, please.
Nico, man, thank you so much.
Okay, bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Nico.
it. Nico Lahood joining us here on The Blitz. Good stuff.